Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is the art of creating mental health wealth. And joining me is my friend and co-star of this show. Welcome, JENETTA Barry and the Epiphany Process.
Oh,
Hello,
thank you.
JENETTA.
Thank you, co-star. It's wonderful to be back, and I'm in another part of the world again today, having travelled on Monday from London Heathrow through to Nairobi. So I'm back home. It's wonderful.
Congratulations. And how was that whole process of traveling? Was it any better than it was the last time you traveled?
It actually wasn't too bad, except that Heathrow, we had an hour and three-quarter delay to our flight, which was going via Cairo. So that was a bit of a challenge, but it all worked out. And this time I thought, well, I'm not going to get my luggage, because we literally hopped off the plane in Cairo and eight of us ran like the clappers to get to the next flight, which they had delayed for us. And we all got on and sat there going, well, I'll be surprised if I see my luggage with how we had to speedily go over. But there it was on the turntable when I got to Nairobi. So that was a
Oh,
good trip.
that's such a breath of gratitude when you see the luggage, because especially if you're not at home, let's say you're going somewhere else and you don't have anything, then you have to go out and buy things. And just a quick story, I remember many years ago, I had interviewed for a job. I got the job, and it was my training, to go to the training, and my luggage got lost. So I showed up the next day, showered, but wearing jeans and completely unprofessional for what I was doing. And I got called up by the CEO, and I said, I got in late last night and my luggage was lost. There's no stores open. There's nothing you could do. So it was okay, but it was embarrassing. And these
Yeah.
things happen. It's out of our control.
And how you handle them, because I had the same last time when I arrived. I had a talk the next day, and I went very casual, and I actually clowned around a bit and said, oh, that's me, casual me, whatever.
Well, I think considering the title of our show, when it comes to mental health, wealth, mental health, wellness, it's important that for things like this that are out of our control, that we don't take it so seriously and get ourselves all filled with anxiety about something that in the big picture of life, it's okay. It's the luggage will come or it will not come. We'll figure it out.
I always stop because it's easy. And I think we all do it. We all go into that place of panic, and it's understandable because it's very human. So it's not about saying, don't go there, because then you can't help yourself but go there. But when I do go there, then I stop and go, now, when I tell this story in 20 years' time, will it have been life threatening? Would it have changed the world, changed my life? No, really doesn't matter.
Yes, so true. And Janetta, there are new people joining our platform all the time. We're so grateful for that, whether they're listening on our radio channel, they're watching our television channels, or they're listening as a podcast. And they don't know Janetta Barry because they just joined us. So who is Janetta, and what is the epiphany process?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jacqueline. Well, who is Janetta Barry? I was a motivational speaker in sales and trainer, and did pretty well with it. And then realized that everybody was only learning to get hyped up from my energy. And so I took myself off because I felt out of integrity. And then I started working on my intuitive side, and really never look back on that, because CEOs of large companies and corporations will tell you that their gut feeling is their most accurate way of making decisions. And but again, people were starting to come back to me and say, we need you to guide us, with what's going to happen or not happen, or what we are or what we aren't. And I went, but you can do it yourselves. And I felt out of integrity again. And round about the time that I was questioning that, my greatest life test happened to me. We'd been walking a walk with Jenny for some time. She'd always been my difficult child, but it was an especially difficult walk because at 14 she came to me and said she was suffering from feeling suicidal, and in and out of rehabs, and a really, really tricky time. But with that comes, because she was feeling so compromised, one of the ways that helped to feel more in power and more control was to manipulate as many circumstances and people, not because she was being nasty, but because if she could do that, she felt in control. So there was a lot of manipulation, and one of the things was breaking safekeeping house rules. And I knew we couldn't go on that way, but I knew we were treading a very, very difficult way with Jenny, because she was so suicidal. And one day I said, it cannot continue like this. And we escalated into a very, very loud argument, and she stormed off, really very angry, and took herself off to pack and leave home. And then I realized something wasn't right, and I found that she had taken her life in her ensuite bathroom. And from that moment, my whole life went to ground zero. And I often wondered how I was ever going to be able to get through it, let alone sit on a platform like this today and speak. And to cut a long story short, I actually realized one day that I'd forgotten that I had choice to not just be one label, which was the mother of the child that committed suicide after an argument, because it became what defined me completely, and nothing else featured in my life. And from that moment, I started studying and researching and walking the walk and talking the talk to accurately get through the myriads and waves of overwhelm and loss that kept on coming up. And I managed to do that. I'm still doing it. Don't get me wrong. I didn't kind of wake up one morning and go, oh, wow, whoopee-doo, it's all over. I'm still doing it, but it's becoming more and more fine-tuned as the more I use this process, which I call the epiphany process. And I've helped people who've been compromised in major ways all over the world for the last 14 years now. And then we also realized that Jenny had died on the 10th of October, which is World Mental Health Day. So we now have World Jenny's Day, using theatre and the arts to normalize conversations around depression, suicide, and their solutions, and also to celebrate mental health wellness, because so much emphasis is put on what's wrong, forgetting what actually does work within feeling compromised. So, and we're now going into the third World Jenny's Day. And, you know, it's with absolute honor, delight, pride that we are showcasing this 2022 World Jenny's Day here on the USA Global TV and radio platform. And I can't wait for the day when we create magic again on the 10th of October.
Thank you, JENETTA, and thank you for sharing your story. And every time I hear you say it, I still just feel overwhelmed thinking about what you must have felt that day. And a question that I just want to ask you, really to put it out there to help other people, because we know the expression, don't go to bed angry. And many times we do go to bed angry, and then we have to try to figure out how we're going to make this work. And there you had that situation with you and your daughter having that argument, and you never got to have the air cleared, so to speak. So to help other people, if you wouldn't mind, what are some of the steps that you took then in reference to that argument that you had, and how you were able to process it?
Yeah. Well, the very first thing I realized was that I had to work on myself and my triggers, my self-judgment, my inner judgment, which had been a part of that argument. You can't have a one-sided argument. Arguments require two people to argue. And even with anybody that I'm having an altercation with, that isn't that doesn't know what I do, I don't try and change them. I don't try and fix them. I can easily go, it's all their fault, and they're idiots, and or they're unfair, or I can give a whole load of things and give my power away. Or I can turn around and go, okay, let me work on my internal, whatever it is that I'm feeling about myself, because I don't know if anybody here watching and listening can relate to this, but I have observed with working on myself and people all around the world, anything that you judge in yourself as being unloved and unlovable means that part of yourself you're not accepting, and we draw and attract people and circumstances into our lives that reflect exactly those self-judgments. And in a sense, those circumstances and those people become our inadvertent teachers. They don't know they're teaching us, but they are. And whilst we lay ourselves to be victim or martyred by them, we're blinded from seeing where their reflection of ourselves can serve us, and where they can help us. So the epiphany process questions are very different. People go, I've never been asked that question before. I don't even know how to start answering it. And then with time, it's suddenly they have this breakthrough. And that's why it's called the epiphany, because they go, oh my word, I've never looked at that situation that way ever before. And I now see a bigger picture I was blocked and blinded and distorted from seeing before. And that big picture entails being able to love that part of yourself, or those parts of yourselves that you feel are inadequate. And when you start seeing as much as there is inadequacy in that place or space of who you are, there's equal amount of gain and advantage. And when you can see both sides of that, you can see both sides of the external picture too. And suddenly authentic conversations start tumbling out your mouth. I've heard people say the wisdom that suddenly when something's presented to me and I go, where did that come from? And it's because we've been able to peel away the distraction of either over analyzing or over emotionalizing. That roller coaster distracts us from where the clarity and the certainty and the truth and the light is.
Thank you, JENETTA. Thank you for your transparency and the effort to help other people. I do appreciate it. And our guest is actually backstage. Before we welcome her, we're going to take a quick break so we don't have to take a break later, and then we'll have you do the introduction when we come back from this break. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful. I can't wait to introduce you to her.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it as well. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Take a moment.
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 So I've had the privilege of photographing some incredible people over the years, and during each shoot I've asked the subject to close their eyes and take themselves to a peaceful place just for a few seconds. I've found that this really helps to refresh the energy between the camera and the subject. They had an energy that was quite special and quite different from the rest of the shoot. The collection grew, and now it feels the right time to use it for something good. I think it'd be amazing if we could help to raise awareness and involve people in the discussion about mental health. So what we're asking to do is for everyone to upload their own self-portraits. All of these portraits will become part of a massive artwork. I'm really excited to see this project go from hundreds of pictures to thousands of pictures. Essentially, an ever-evolving artwork that says we're all in this together.
Close your eyes and take a moment.
Kapayapaan
kapayapaan, kapayapaan.
Diane Floyd Bame's A Song of Peace tells the story of a young lad named Tommy whose fervent wish for peace on earth touches the hearts of his friends and family, spreads to his community, and eventually unites the whole world around making his dream of peace a reality for everyone. Sit down with the children in your life and share Tommy's amazing story of love and hope. Sing your own song of peace and invite the children to join you. Tommy's tale is more than just a story. It's a movement, and everyone's warmly welcome to take part.
Kapayapaan, 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 kapayapaan.
You'll find A Song of Peace, along with many other wonderful learning and enriching opportunities for children of all ages, at DianeFloydBame.com.
We'll talk a little bit about that a bit later and about what she does. And, you know, it was quite difficult to decide which part of Meridith to present today, because she's an actor, director, and an educator. So I chose the actor side because, wow, that's where it all starts and grows. And she's a New York-based actor, improviser, director, educator, and producer, with a passion for devised work, non-linear storytelling, and out-of-the-box thinking across the stage and screen. Though she can be found playing on overly concerned parent in a commercial or two. You know, that one that's the helicopter parent. Her credits span across television, film, theatre, and voiceover work with award-winning directors and producers around the country, around the US country, for our international viewers and listeners. And she's won some amazing awards. and she is able to elaborate all on it here just now when she's with us. She's trained with some pretty awesome people, cut her improv teeth at IO Chicago, and became an associate faculty member at Second City Chicago with an M.F.A. in contemporary performance from Naropa University. She's an associate artist with the local theatre company, Boulder CO, and travels the country teaching and performing improv as a guest and adjunct teacher. And I know, well, let's bring Meridith through. Welcome, Meridith. It's wonderful to have you here.
Can we just say live from New York?
Live from New York.
Live from New York. Yes. Hi. So
Hi.
I'm so nice to meet you, Dr. JACALYN.
Nice to meet you as well. You have an incredible background. Thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. I'm just delighted to be here.
Well, I'm just so glad we managed to juggle this, because I know there was a bit of a mix-up with dates and things, and we got you here.
We are here. I'm present. We're here.
Absolutely. And as always, I mean, rather like with you, Dr. JACALYN, I feel like Meridith has been a friend for life. What we created last year on World Jenny's Day with Playback Theatre West and all your amazing contemporaries from there, it still blows my mind. Well, and one can go and have a look at what was created for World Jenny's Day Playback Theatre on the World Jenny's Day site. But Meridith, I'd like to hand over to you and give you the mic and give some insight as to what got you on this path. Why this path? Where did it stem from?
Oh my goodness. Where do I start with that question? I've always been curious. I've always been a curious kid and a creative kid. And I remember I had a friend, Mona Mehta, who started taking dance classes, and she said, take dance classes with me. So I went home to my mom and dad and I said, I want to take dance classes. And I did at the age of 9. And then I got the bug. I was on a stage and I was like, I really like this. I really like this a lot. In fact, a little bit too much. And then, so I started off dancing, mostly in jazz and modern, a little bit of ballet here and there. And I did a performance, and there was someone in the audience who came up to me after this performance where I had to do a triple turn and land and say, when I grow up, I want to be just like Wonder Woman. And she said, you have a really wonderful voice on stage. You should be an actor. And then, of course, I went to mom and dad and I said, would you pay for acting classes? And they said yes. And one thing led to the next. And I've always had my hands in everything. I've never stuck to, like, I don't do just Shakespeare, or I don't just do straight plays or musicals, but I've really have enjoyed more of the improvisational world of theater making, which is what drew me to studying improv in Chicago. I studied at IO, like you had said in my bio, ended up teaching for the Second City. I then went on and continued to study improvisational movement forms. Like I studied a methodology called the viewpoints. I studied contact improv, which is movement based, and a lot of other different forms of theater that I've then used to create my own work. And so I have self-produced, I've helped produce other people. I have directed many shows. I just ended a project called Out of the Blue, which was my dear friend Eli Hans and his one-man musical that he did in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. And just finished a run at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. So I'm kind of all over the place, and I've got my own show coming up here soon too.
Okay, I am speechless. I would just I love the fact that you continue to grow and put yourself out there. And what started as something that was a passion, maybe a hobby, came into this incredibly successful career. And now you're helping other people with their careers as well. That is fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. And my other hat that I wear is I'm a public speaking and presentation skills coach. And I love helping individuals who might not be creatives or see themselves as creatives. I think everyone's a creative, but they may not see themselves as a performer, if you will. I help really bring their presentations to life and create experiences for them.
Well,
And
I'm going to
that's
speak for Janetta and for me, but if you have any tips for us later, you can sure let us know.
Oh, heck yeah. I would love to. I'd love to.
Excellent,
I
Janetta.
mean,
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, that came very apparent because, again, yet again, I met Meridith through the social audio app Clubhouse during the course of last year, and one of those warm-hearted people. You could hear from that voice that she says she was told she has such a fabulous voice, but that warm-hearted understanding and ability to draw out from people when you speak, Meridith, is something that is such a gift. And I wanted to ask you today, because we were going to originally book this session a couple of months ago, and the show got booked out until now, and we had to reschedule it because it was booked out, that slot. And at that time, you were working on your, I think it's the one you were talking about now, your one-man show, which has to do a lot with mental health. And your dad, and it's such an incredible story. We'd love you to share it now.
Oh, thank you. It opens next week here in New York. I say that and giggle because I have so much work to do on it still, but that's the beauty of creating your own work. It's called Nothing Further is the name of this piece. I'm calling it a one-person performance exhibit, and I'll explain that a little bit here in a second. The story is inspired by the death of my father, who passed away in 2011. And Nothing Further comes from the police report that was filed, which was an investigation into his death. So when my father passed away, it was a freak accident. No one really knows what happened. He was home alone, but we know that he had 3 head contusions, bled out of the brain, was in a coma. And then my mother and I, while he was in the coma, discovered that he was living a kind of a double life. And so the show is investigating that double life and peeling back the onion, if you will. And he had PTSD from serving as a Marine during the Vietnam War. So when I would say between the ages of 12 and 16 is when his flashbacks really came to the surface because of his surgery that he underwent, and the anesthesia triggered the PTSD. I talk a little bit about what that was like. I talk about family secrets, the need to keep up appearances. And I'm doing this all in this very clear, defined space that represents a room. It's a 10 by 10 space, and all you see in the center of it is a sofa and an end table with a coffee table that has all of these different investigative kind of clues on it, and a telephone. And it's me sometimes talking directly to the audience and sometimes speaking in third person. And it's an exhibit because it's happening in an art gallery, and the audience can either pay for a full ticket, watch the entire show, or you can be what I'm calling a passerby, where we have a docent that will let 8 people in at a time, and they can watch the exhibit for as long as they would like, and they can leave when they would like. And I'm doing this as an experiment to see how the audience will sit in the investigation with me or not. Maybe they just get a little bit, they get one scene. And then what happens is when those passerbys come in, the people who are sitting in the chairs and have paid to see the whole entire show become a little bit a part of the exhibit. So I'm experimenting with how we see things as well, because I feel that is very much a thread in the piece, is what we choose to let people see versus what is the reality, and how much more healing would happen in the world if we could be just more vulnerable and transparent with each other and talk about the hard stuff and ask the open-ended questions and sit with the answer.
What an incredible way to take something that happened to you and put it out there for others to have a peek inside while you're also doing some work yourself, I would imagine. My question for you is, and I'm sorry for the loss of your dad, by the way. I lost my
Oh,
dad too.
thank you.
It's not an easy thing. But how do you take those feelings of loss, or how will you take those feelings of loss and then the surprise learning that there was another side of his life, and not let those emotions overwhelm you while you're performing?
Oh, I love that question. I feel like for me, I've done so much work with it over the years because he passed away in 2011 that I'm able to speak from a place, and I know JENETTA will resonate with this because our dear friend Elliot would often say, "Don't speak from an open wound," and I would say, I know very clearly that I'm delivering this piece not from an open wound, that I've done all that work that I need to do on myself to process this. There are moments, though, in the piece where it's almost as if I feel his presence because of the way that the story has been written, especially in the closing monologue that I have written for this. Uh, it's tender. There are tender pieces to it. It also helps that I have written some of it in third person. And the reason why I chose to do that is because I feel like a lot of the themes in the piece are universal. And I wanted the audience to have their own experience with the material and me not just putting the material on them.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question for you. As you know, when we do work on ourselves, we have an epiphany, we have an awakening, but not everyone is happy that we're telling the story. Not everyone is happy that we're sharing something about our other family members. How do you deal with that, or how are you dealing with that? Did anyone say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this?
I feel the person, so there's two things I can speak into. One is I was very clear about whose story I was telling. And once I was clear about, I was honoring my version of the story and not disrespecting somebody else and their experience with the story. I feel like that was the first step, that I'm honoring my side of the story. The person I was the most concerned with was my mom, because I love her and I respect her and I want her to, I want her to feel safe, if you will. And I've been very transparent with her. We've had many conversations, and she's helped me with part of this investigation. And so I feel when it comes to the rest of the community at large that might not know this story, I'm not sure if they will ever see the story. And if they do, I am here for the conversation. And whatever feelings they have around the discoveries that I made, I can listen, but that's not for me to own. That's then their turn to process. And that's where I hope that intersection where we don't talk about the things that live in between is that we can talk about those things that live in between.
What I love with that is that basically you've created a platform for all those people to express their voice should they want to safely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge. And that leads me on to a question, because a lot of people I know who are still on that open wound part of their journey, and they're possibly sitting here today going, I will never get over this. How can I ever get rid of an open wound? Part of the reason being because they feel guilty that if they do, it means they didn't love that person enough, that move past and have a closed wound. You know, the open wound means they really loved them. But having, you and I have often talked about this healed wound scenario, it doesn't mean that there isn't still processing to do for the rest of your life. And you touched on that, where sometimes during your performance you go, oh, that's interesting. So for me, my question to you is, where in putting this all together and now performing it, where has been your newest aha that's really been, I never thought of it that way, or I never realized it that way?
I'm going to go back to this closing monologue because I had a ha-ha yesterday, because I am still memorizing some things. total transparency, because the play was just basically written 2 weeks ago. That's process for you. I would say it is in the discovery, the true depth and discovery of how, if we don't talk about these things, that it gets passed down to the next generation. And it is so important that we talk about the pain, the family, the structures, the generational traumas, I guess, that have been passed down, because I feel largely that a lot of the decisions that my father chose to make were because of the decisions his father and his mother made and their parents made, and so forth and so on. And it just became blatantly clear to me that that's where a large amount of his suffering came from. My father was not drafted into the Vietnam War as a Marine. He enlisted. He enlisted for a reason. He enlisted to escape. And so that is worth the investigation. Looking into your family history, healing the family trauma is well worth the investigation.
Oh, I love that. I love that because it goes on to another level with suicide, and a lot of people don't realize this. And it was one of my aha moments. That there's cellular memory. Every single cell in our body keeps a memory of what's happened or happening, and it jumps into the next generation. And that's fine if it's memory that serves, but as you've just said, so much of it doesn't. And I've seen this time and time again. I'm working with a mother of a son who shot himself a year ago in Australia. I'm working with her at the moment, and listening to the backstory a little bit. Not that I do that in the process. There are no stories, but it comes through. Is that when there's the dirty little secret, and nobody's allowed to talk about it because it means that the family is flawed, it jumps into the next generation. And I know I can talk about this openly with from my ex-husband, but he comes from an hectic line of suicide. And it just kept on happening and happening. And the moment this happened with Jenny, I started that open conversation, that transparency. And it really came home the day that Jenny did Catherine, my youngest daughter, did a project on her most impactful day of her life, meaningful day. And it was all about Jenny's funeral. And there, written on this big project sheet, was my sister killed herself. No qualms. And that's what I'm hearing with you, is that you're creating an amazing platform for people to become more and more authentic and real.
Yeah. I feel that's where healing comes from. It's scary to be truthful with people about some of these topics that we consider culturally taboo, or they don't reflect kindly on how you want to be perceived in the world. But it sure is healing when you can just share those pieces of you and eventually get to a place where you're not feeling guilt or shame around it. A lot of people live with shame, and then they raise their children under the umbrella of shame. And then, of course, that causes a lot of mental health issues as well. And I'm not saying this is going to solve the problem, but it's the conversation is where we start. And it takes a little bit at a time. I remember even talking about my father's story. I remember very vividly, I went to a play with two of my girlfriends, and we went out for a cocktail afterwards. And I just shared with them some of these discoveries. And this was, I would say, a good 8 months, not even a year yet, until after my father passed away. I shared just a little bit of the story. I remember leaving going, oh my God, I shouldn't have shared that. I feel so guilty. I feel shame. And then I had to check in with them like, oh my, I hope that wasn't too much. Like I remember all the voices in my head and the feelings in my chest and in my body. And then and they were loving, of course, they were my friends, and they're like, it's okay. We just feel so honored that you would feel comfortable enough with us to tell us that story. And then I allowed that to just sit for a little bit, right? And to sit with the feelings of it. And then I would get a little bit more brave, and then I would tell a couple more people. And then I'd feel a little, and then a couple more people. And that, I would say, was over the period of about 6 or 7 years. And I remember I told the story at a story slam, but I said, please don't video record it because I don't want my mom to feel like, so there was these steps that happened along the way to now I can put this piece in the most authentic, grounded way possible that I feel truly serves the story. I can now do that. How many years later? 11, almost 12 years later. Baby steps.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming forward and sharing this. I can totally relate to what you're saying. I'm not going to go into it right now because it's your show, but we had a secret in our family from 2 generations, and I ended up being somewhere and I was told this information. It blew open the whole family, and I'm still kind of dealing with it, and knowing that these secrets were kept for so long and that the people involved had so much shame and were so afraid for the world to know the truth. And then of course they've passed on, and now we're here with the information trying to figure out what to do with it. So you're really helping me as well. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meridith, is there any way that we can get snippets of your performance? I know it's kind of like a piece of live art, really, but I would love to be able to show, I'm talking for Dr. JACALYN as well, but if we could I could showcase it on social media or somewhere like that, because these conversations are so vital and important.
Thank you. Well, I will be recording it. I do have a videographer that will be recording it. So as soon as those recordings are done and edited, I will definitely share that with you. This is a piece that I hope this is just the first work. I'm going to call it the work in progress. This is the first incarnation of it. I feel so grateful because Culture Lab here in New York, they took me under their roof, and I'm a resident of theirs. And so they've helped me really give me the space and time to produce this piece. And then their hope is that I take it and fly. So I will be doing it. I will be doing it again for sure. I will be finding other places who would like to produce the piece.
Meridith, if we want to come and see it, if we want to actually come to New York, I'm in New Jersey. So
yes.
Took the words out my mouth because I've got to get over to New York.
Yes, I will. I have a link. It's under nothingfurther.org. Is where you can find a little bit more information about the show. And then there is a link to purchase tickets.
Sorry, I'm busy typing up the link over here.
No problem.
Nothingfurther.org. Okay.
Nothingfurther.org. Yes. And you can also find it on the Culture Lab LIC website.
Wonderful. Okay. I can't wait to go there and see. And so when it's starting very soon, when is the first performance?
June 30th is the first performance. And I perform Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings. I do 2 performances a night, one at 6 and one at 8.
Wow. How do you keep up your energy level to do 2 shows in a night?
I'll let you know afterwards.
Oh my goodness. I have a question for you. I know we're almost out of time for our show, but I think it's really important based on what's going on in the world. There are so many people who are creative, who want to express themselves. And when they do, it helps with their mental health. But in many cases, they're not compensated as they should be so that they can continue paying for their lifestyle and what they need. What are some things that you found in your experience to help people turn the corner?
Well, first you have to step out of the scarcity mentality, and you have to realize that your work and your art is valuable and it is worth something, and that it's really difficult to help the rest of the world if you're starving. It really is difficult. So for me, it's about switching a mindset. And so I encourage all artists out there. And one thing that I am so passionate about is mentoring younger artists too. So if there are people who watch this and they want to reach out to me, please. And if I can't help you, I will direct you to a place that I know will be a great resource for you. But I feel like it's a systemic issue, especially in the US, where we're undervalued and we have seen the cracks have been exposed. Through the pandemic for many reasons, whether that be you be an artist in marginalized communities or you're an artist that identifies as female. It's just all across the board. There's issues. We need to solve them. We need to start standing up for ourselves. We need to start getting paid for the work that we do because we bring a lot of value to this world and a lot of great conversations.
So true and valuable. I just want to share one more comment that over the weekend, for the first time in over 2 years, I went to the theater and I went with 4 generations of my family. How cool is that?
That's
So
so
the work
cool.
that you do, it's so relevant and important. It brings people together. It lifts people's spirits, educates people. So whatever we can do here to help with this movement, please let me know.
Yeah, there is an article that came out several years ago. I want to say it came out in American Theater Magazine. Maybe, don't quote me on that. But the article was about how when you sit in an audience and watch a show together with a group of people like that, your heartbeat gets into sync with everybody else's heartbeat in the audience. And there's like, that's profound. That is profound. I mean, your heartbeat is syncing up. You're laughing with people at the same time. You're experiencing the unveiling of a story. You're all a part of the same conversation. It's just magical.
Oh my word! I
It is.
love that.
It's that shared experience that you're now creating a memory that is lasting, and we're no longer judging each other. We're no longer interrupting each other. We're sharing this experience of joy.
Yeah.
JENETTA, I'll leave it to you for any last questions for Meridith.
Well, I think we've covered so much, and what an insightful time we've had together. I look forward to having you back, and I'm sure Dr. JACALYN too. We'd love to have you on other platforms as well.
Thank you.
I just can't wait to. In fact, I would like to chat with you some more about World Jenny's Day 2022. We Dr. JACALYN and I have been talking many plans, and it's going to be showcased on this platform for the day. We're starting on the 10th of the 10th at 10 a.m. British Standard Time and finishing at 10 p.m. EST time. So it'll be 17 hours of being online. So
wonderful.
You. I can't wait to get over to New York and see your show live or whatever. And I think we've covered just about everything. Just so wonderful to have you here today. I'm so glad we made it happen.
Me too. Thank you. This has been delightful. And I really appreciate you both for having me on the show today.
Thank you. It's been our pleasure. And we wish you tons of success. And I can't wait to go and see if I can make it happen to go there. I would love to see your show and get to New York.
Well, thank you. Keep me posted if you come, okay?
All right. I definitely will. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
JENETTA, I just love her. So much joy, beautiful eyes, and she's just filled with this positive energy and glow. And I can see how she could transform the audience, get them all to come together celebrating. And I hope I can be part of that process.
Well, I knew you would love her, Dr. J. And whilst we were talking about that unison of heartbeat, I felt it between the three of us as we were talking. There was this kind of like, that flow, it creates a flow. And I just loved that. I've never looked at it that way. So just amazing.
Absolutely. JENETTA, I want to spotlight you so you can give your contact information for people who can reach out to you. And who would you like to contact you, and what's the best way?
Oh, thank you. Anybody out there of our viewers and listeners, if you're feeling that your life is compromised and you're finding it difficult to move forward, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling stuck in a corner or in that deep, dark black hole, or you're finding it difficult to move things within a certain social group. It could be your family, it could be friends, it could be work, any part of your life that feels impossible to move. I invite you to chat with me, because when you've got these skills to move forward, new conversations start coming out of yours and their mouths. And then things start becoming solution based rather than stuck. So if you're feeling compromised in your life and you'd like to know how you can move, not have anybody else, and not have to sit and talk a story about what used to happen and how you feel, because that can really stick you in that place. If you'd like to move forward powerfully without getting stuck in emotional stories, then I invite you to talk with me, and you'll never look back. And so to get hold of us, we're at theepiphanyprocess.com, and I'm very approachable and reachable on that website. And if you'd like to know more about our charity, one of our charities, we've got two, but the one charity is World Jenny's Day. It's got so much information in there already that could help you. If you just go into all that we've platformed before in previous years, I believe you'll find it beyond informative. So do go there, and there you can reach out to me as well. I look forward to hearing from you and expanding your life with you in the most powerful ways that you never thought possible.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, JENETTA, for being here and bringing a fabulous guest today.
Oh, thank you. Can't wait till next week again. Such wonderful shows.
Thank you. I'll see you in a couple of hours for our testimonials.
Next, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Lots of love. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to let you know what the rest of the shows are for today. So coming up, we have the United Kingdom News and Culture, followed by the Business Talk Show, and then Wild at Heart, Bonfire Talks, Real, Authentic, Uncut, and also our women's program, which is a woman's prerogative. And I just want to share my screen for a moment and have you take a look at our new website for our women's show. And here it is. It's called A Woman's Prerogative. It's on every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 9 p.m. British Summer Time, 10 p.m. Central European Time. And the concept is a weekly show for women, from women, about women. And who is actually in the show? It's our panel. Princess Dr. Desiree Richardson, Kathy Fulton, Tracy Lamore, Amber J. Lawson, Her Excellency Dr. Justina Mutali, and our friend JENETTA Barry, along with me. So you can also find out how to contact us here, send us an email, and you can also see all of the episodes here. So today's episode is You're Too Old to Wear That, and Other Ageist Comments. What do you think? So I hope that you'll join us, and I hope that you'll reach out to our panelists. You can contact them from the website, or you can also contact us at office@awomansprerogativeTVRadioShow.com. If you want to contact me directly, here's my information. I just saw it somewhere. Okay, here it is. You can contact me at Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com, or our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. All right. Thank you again for being here. And thank you to JENETTA and Meridith. And thank you to each and every one of you who is following us, who is subscribed to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV. We really do appreciate you. Thank you. And we'll see you shortly for our next program.